ah, se quel guerriero fossi, se quel guerriero fossi. There are two different kinds of attack demonstrated there. One is a dropping attack. Tetrasini said it's like leaning a ladder up against the wall. It's more like talking. To be or not to be, that is the question. So I can just talk now. By leaning my breath, I get a good breath in, then I lean on the diaphragm. When I go, it relaxes my throat, and I go, how are you today? How are you today? I'm fine. You can understand every word I'm saying, and all I'm doing is speaking with a lean on my diaphragm. And it's very easy. Now the danger of this is when I have dramatic rhetoric to deliver, all of a sudden I start talking like that. And it gets a little raucous and yelly. So there's another way to sing, which is a very gentle attachment. And I lean the breath gently. Instead of falling and letting all my weight land on this place, I go, how are you today? How are you today? You can understand every word I'm saying still. And it has nothing to do with my diction. It's a purely diaphragmatic reaction. It's a different way slightly of using the rib cage and the breath. The way it's taught, and the way it has always been taught, is through imitation. You have to understand you do a falsetto which totally relaxes the throat. Take a big breath, go draw your abdomen in when you do it, and go. As Tetrasini said, the first drop of air goes into the rear lower quadrant of your lungs, and then you fill the lungs from bottom to top. So I go. And then I go, how are you today? So nice to see you. Instead of, how are you today? So nice to see you. Breathe. So if I have more dramatic music to sing, I can either go, se quel guerriero fossi. First thing you know, I want to be a warrior, and I go, se quel guerriero fossi. And all of a sudden I'm starting to yell a little bit. There's an old saying, sing the lyric music dramatically and the dramatic music lyrically. So it's one of the rules in the opera. So if I want to sing this somewhat dramatic recitative, and I want to use the lyric approach, then I do not use this dead lean dropping attack. I use a restrained, what the Germans call verhalten, a restrained attack. So I go, se quel guerriero fossi, se quel guerriero fossi, se il mio sogno si avverasse. Now what's the difference? Se il mio sogno si avverasse. If I have a personality that's somewhat lively and somewhat full of energy and somewhat dramatic, then I tend to overspeak. I could talk to you like this all the time. Hi, how are you? It's so nice to see you. And a lot of singers, especially tenors, do that. Especially lyrical spinto tenors, what the Germans call Zwischenfach tenors, between category tenors, not lyric and not dramatic. If you want the metal and the dramatic part of a lyrical spinto voice to function, you really have to concentrate on singing lyrically. Because once I get into that function, then the voice just wants to stay heavy and get heavier and heavier. So it's better to sing as lightly as possible. The first time I ever sang for Richard Tucker, he said, only got one thing to tell you, kid. Keep it light. Keep it really light, like that. Do you understand what I mean? Really light. Meanwhile, the paint's coming off the walls, and my head is going, my ears are going like this. And he's saying, keep it light. It took a while to understand what he meant. When you go to Germany and you sing in German theaters, and you hear this phrase all the time, schlank singen, schlank singen.
Some old bass will come up and give you an elbow in the ribs while you're in the middle of the performance and say, schlank singing, which means sing slender. Don't sing thick. Don't go, ah. See, that way I'm closing the entire vocal folds together tightly and I'm letting the whole thing vibrate. What I really want to do is just get the edges to vibrate. So I go, So I sing something that's, that's lighter. I sing, I don't have to go, it's important to understand these are two different types of leans, of uses of the breath. If I just go and hold it there, I can get like this. So you never hold anything, you lean on something. It's like putting your arm on someone's shoulders and just leaning there. And gravity will hold you there. You don't have to press down to secure your position on that shoulder so that you don't fall down. All I have to do is just lean. So there's a lot of music and a lot of phrases during an opera where you can just lean. But lirico spinto tenors and sopranos in particularly have to learn how to back off and sing lightly. So I sing everything like this. Hi, how are you today? So nice to see you. So I go, ooh, ah, and not ooh, ah, but ooh, ah. I still don't sound like a tenorino when I do that. Ooh, ah. Se quel ieri avessi, se il mio sogno si avverasse, si avverasse, si avverasse. Du bist wie eine Blume. I can sing other things that way too, that are lyric. So what does lyric mean? In Europe, the word lyric means round, mellow, full, like a full moon. So a voice that is not a lyric voice can still sing lyrically. I don't have to constantly, just because someone says I'm a heavier tenor, that I have to constantly prove it. Why do I have to prove it? I either have that kind of voice or I do not. So what I want to do is avoid someone like Tito Schipa, who was a tenorino, and probably the greatest one that ever lived, could use a dead drop technique because his vocals were so light, so tiny. So I go, and he would say, didn't have to do anything. The heavier voices don't respond well to that very, very light dead drop. You can go, or you can do it heavy, but both are not necessary and bad if you have any lirico spinto quality, natural quality in your voice. So I'm going to go, and the whole attack is, I'm placing it, let's say it's on this button. Pavarotti said in the master class of Juilliard, it's like a baby here, push and push and push. So I go, am I pushing? So I asked him, said, did you mean push? Did you mean spingere? He said, no, non spingere. Appoggiare, appoggiare. And appoggiare in Italian means to lean, not to push. He said, I say wrong in English. He meant lean, not push, because if I push, I get an obstinate reaction in my throat and I'm tied up in knots. And some singers try to push. The worst thing you can do is push down. If I push straight down, all of a sudden I'm getting all kinds of reactions in my throat. So what if I breathe behind me, like my lower back, like my buttocks are balloons, and I go, and then I go, se qualche ieri io fossi, se il mio sogno si avverasse, se il mio sogno si avverasse. Why isn't that enough voice? Is that enough voice? How loud do I have to be? First of all, it's only a recitative. What am I doing? You know? Because he's trying to get everybody to go. And Caruso goes. And some tenors go. What if I just let the diaphragm decide? So it's sort of half mixed in the head voice and the end, but that's only in my voice. If you have a true held-in tenor, his voice will go completely, it goes, it'll go completely over. But when we try to do that artificially with vowel modification techniques, you notice I modify the vowel. I mean, it's an artificial cover, they call it in the United States. And in Europe, they call it passing or going over or turning. So if I want the voice to turn, if I do nothing and go and set it on my diaphragm, it doesn't turn over if I have that dead drop. So what if I back off a little bit and go, you can understand every word I'm saying. So the diction can be clear and there are no modified vowels. When I do that, it's a modification of the resonance, not a modification of the vowel. The vowel goes, as Caruso said in his book, you should never change the shape of the throat from its original shape on the low note. So if I go, now I find that light attack. And I go, and the voice passes up into the mask and into the head without any vowel modification. There's only acoustical modification. They asked Leonard Warren once in an interview on the radio from a performance of the Met, Mr. Warren, what note do you cover on? And he thought for a moment, silence on the radio, and then he said, well, actually, my whole voice is covered. Of course, nobody knew what he was talking about. He used the pre-sneeze formation. If I go, oh my goodness, you see what it does? So I go, the whole voice gets hooked up there and stays up there. Also not necessary. If I breathe behind me and down, I go. Now, my soft palate has moved up and forward, and it's ready for this modified acoustic when I get up to that note. I go. And I don't have to worry about covering, passing, or anything. The reaction to the deep breath behind me causes the soft palate to rise up and forward and seals off the nasal cavity. This is completely sealed off. And they go, and you have to have the courage to sing dramatic music that way. If you're singing Otello, you go, Nyon mi tema. Why do I have to go, Nyon mi tema? Why? Why can't I go, Nyon mi tema? Dio mi potevi scagliar. Why do I have to be any heavier than that? What I need is the right kind of voice. If I have the right kind of voice, I can sing lightly. But if I don't have the right kind of voice, I can't possibly make one. Sometimes fools rush in where angels fear to tread. I sang Mike the Singer the first time when I was only 26 years old. Rave reviews, huge success. Worst thing could happen to me. Somebody said, this guy's got no business singing that music, but they didn't say, oh, great, great. So all of a sudden everybody starts pushing me as what they call in Germany, a jugendlicher Held. a youthful hero, which is a whole vocal category. And I would have been better off if I could have just stayed in lighter music. So I used to bargain with these guys. Yeah, sure, I'll sing whatever, Flying Dutchman for you, but you got to give me 4 Rigolettos. And the truth is, I never had success with those light lyric parts. Some beautiful lyric tenor like Anton de Ritter or someone would come along and just blow me away. I had my biggest successes in parts that were lyrical spinto parts with some spinto sections, like Carmen. If you look at the last act of Carmen, it's pure spinto music. And the way you train spinto singers, and very few voices can stand this, so you shouldn't even do it unless you're very experienced singer or very experienced teacher. People have to know what they're doing. Because if I blow my breath out and go, ah, ah, what kind of attack is that? Think about it. Ah, now I have,
se qualche ieri fossi, se il mio sogno si avverasse.
The fact that I blow my breath out, my ribs in the back are partially closed. When I start to sing, I'm already under pressure in my breathing. If I go and attack lightly,
se qualche ieri fossi, se il mio sogno si avverasse.
I used to sing like that, and everybody said, oh, you're a real Helen tenor. I said, no, I'm not. No, I am not. Well, if you ever hear a real, I studied also with Laurens Melchior for a little while. That was a Helen tenor. And first time I sang for him, I sang Lohengrin, which was the heaviest thing I could get through. And of course, it was Wagner. And when I finished, he said,
you know, you are not a Helen tenor. You are a lyric tenor. You must sing lyrically.
And then he said, like this, he said,
Winterstürme wichen im Wonnemond, im milden Licht erleuchtete Lenz.
What was I supposed to do? 23 years old, 24 years old? How shall I sing that? Let's try.
Winterstürme wichen im Wonnemond, im milden Licht erleuchtete Lenz.
Why isn't that enough? You know what? If it's not enough, I shouldn't be singing that part. What if I do a dead drop lean on it? I go.
Winterstürme wichen im Wonnemond, im milden Licht erleuchtete Lenz.
Breathe. Put it in the sternal notch and go.
Winterstürme wichen im Wonnemond, im milden Licht erleuchtete Lenz.
Shall I just monkey around with it? Why? Looking for more voice? Tetracini said to keep the pressure of the breath against the sternum at all times. Breathe.
Winterstürme wichen im Wonnemond, im milden Licht erleuchtete Lenz.
Is that enough? Well, if it's not enough, I shouldn't be singing it. So what can I sing? How do I sing? You know what you do? You find out what you can sing when the is enough. How big is my staccato compared to the tenorino staccato? If I have a little tenor over here, he goes, I'd have to imitate him by making my throat smaller and narrower. So if you sing in your nose, you have to be careful. You're making the pillars of the fauces close and the throat gets narrow. And then how do you sing? Now I have to find some kind of breathing technique to feed my voice through that narrow slot. Whereas if I would do nothing and go, hi, how are you? I can do a dead drop. And if I do lyric music, that's fine. But what if I'm doing dramatic music? What if I'm going,
forse la soglia tinse e posa al fin?
Do I need that? What if I give her the lighter attack?
Forse la soglia tinse e posa al fin.
Why isn't that enough? So it's like a way of talking. All of a sudden it's saying, hi, how are you? I'm going, hi, how are you? I'm restraining my voice. I'm saying to be or not to be. That is the question. I'm as constant as a northern star. Why isn't that enough voice? So this is the problem that so many male singers in particular have, and some of the spinto sopranos. You want to get so that you find out how to attack a note, the preset of the breath that is required for attacking a note like that. And then I'm going to sing like that. What am I doing? And this is the difference between these attacks, and this is a very, very crucial thing to learn, especially for those tenors who have more metal and more meat in the voice. You have to learn the difference between ooh-ah, even though it's well placed, ooh-ah, diaphragmatic, and ooh-ah, it still plays.
Se quel guerriero fossi, se il mio sogno si avverasse.
Then I have choices. I can do it down here.
Se quel guerriero fossi, se il mio sogno si avverasse.
And everybody has a natural voice and a natural lean and a natural development. You can see how I'm built. I'm 75 years old. This is a 75-year-old man. And the way he's built, after a lifetime of singing, I've got the typical tenor pooch in my belly. If I try to hold it in, then I get like this. So you can't hold it in. You have to let it go and let it drop. And then you pick your attack. You can hear when I do that. It's just the edges of my vocal cords. Why isn't that enough? If I have to sing a high note, it's so much easier than going, oh, well, forget that. I don't want to strain something. So sing what Richard Tucker told me, first time I ever sang for him in 1962. He said, keep it light, kid. Keep it light. Breathe behind you, sing in front of you. Breathe. Not So when I speak, I don't say, sei quel guerriero fossi. I say, sei quel guerriero fossi. Like that. Okay, I hope that's clear. And let's see if it's not. If it's not, let me know. Thanks.